he made with his arms and his legs. One of the guys I think that should be there, other than that, because, Hendon Hooker, he was the Offensive Player of the Year, but one guy that's being overlooked also was Will Anderson Jr., which is the two-time Defensive Player of the Year and two-time Nagurski Award winner. And they had to put two guys to block him plus a chip on every play, and he definitely affected every team, and every team had to scheme for him. And, there's quite a few awesome players out there that missed their shot. And I'll just hang up and listen. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for the call, David. Defensive players aren't going to win it.
Was he talking about Will Anderson this year?
That's what it made it sound like.
He
wasn't nearly as good.
No, well, he just wasn't nearly as productive.
Yeah.
Will Anderson should have been in New York last year. I think that was a massive snub.
He was a dominant force. Well, and that told me kind of like MVP in the NFL. Like it's a quarterback award. Now I know that running backs in college football obviously have a far greater impact, and theoretically, like Derrick Henry was an NFL MVP candidate despite not receiving a single vote which is still crazy. The 2,000-yard season.
Who's the last non-quarterback to win the Heisman?
Ooh, AP?
Yeah.
Is that?
No, it's not AP.
It's not?
You do not have to go back that far. But Derrick Henry won the Heisman.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said the MVP.
No, I'm sorry. Last non-quarterback to win the Heisman.
Non-quarterback to win the Heisman.
Wasn't that long ago.
Why am I having such a hard time? It's not Derrick, is it?
The year before last. It is a Bama player.
The wide receiver, Devontae Smith.
Devontae.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so 3 Alabama non-quarterbacks have won the Heisman in the Nick Saban era. Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, and Devontae Smith. And then Bryce Young for good measure.
It's pretty good. Hey, by the way, we got transfer portal we got to talk about at some point today. Good God, because the Alabama defections. Have you seen this? That's the thing that, like, with all the different names flying around, and we'll get to that later on. Let's stick with the Heisman conversation for the time being. But the amount of defections from Alabama is the thing that caught my attention most, and that I think signifies the kind of stuff that we're talking about, like what we mentioned yesterday with Trent Dilfer and programs like UAB that are going to be able to get in the mix on higher caliber players because guys want playing time and they can transfer as they like at this point in time. In fact, let's get into that. 615-737-1045 live from Toy Field today. Make sure you drop off or swing by and drop off an unwrapped gift or a gift for a senior and bring it to Toy Field, where we're broadcasting Nissan Stadium, the East Concourse, Gate 1, right by the Pro Shop. Many thanks to everybody who's making this possible today. Hardee's, Fox 17, Coolray, and State Water Heaters. So, as we look at the transfer portal stuff, I thought it counterproductive for us to just go through a list of names that have been in it because there are so many players of consequence. So I think it's a more compelling conversation to kind of take a look at which conference is about to be affected the most by this situation. Because what we've seen in the ACC, and Lucas, you could probably speak to this better than I could. What we're seeing in the ACC is pretty alarming. It's not the right word, but jarring because it's so many quarterbacks. And that was the strength of that conference. We thought, obviously, there were injuries. There were different things that derailed guys' seasons. Did we ever figure out what happened with Wake Forest quarterback that caused him to miss that time?
Medically, no. It was just an undisclosed medical issue that they do not, have any requirement to tell us.
Okay. Well,
and he ended up playing and then having a nice season.
Sure. So, but still, there were things that kind of derailed it from being the kind of year we thought it might be for the ACC just generally, and DJ struggles, inconsistency throughout the course of the year. Is there a more affected so far in the transfer portal, because I'm sure we're going to continue to see names roll along, is there a more affected Power 5 conference right now than the ACC?
Not at the quarterback position. And by the way, as of yesterday afternoon around 3:30, 667 players had entered the transfer portal on yesterday alone.
What?
Which was so that number is...
According to who?
That's according to Sports Source Analytics on Twitter, CFBstats.com. That's an all-time daily record, and it smashes the previous high of 270 that was set in late November. So that number is obviously still counting. And as at the time that tweet was sent out, 62 of those 667 were quarterbacks, and 5 of those out of the ACC. So DJ Uiagalelei is the highest profile name to hit the portal out of Clemson. Cade Klubnik is going to start the Orange Bowl against Tennessee, which, by the way, that's a whole other discussion about what could have been for Clemson this season if Cade Klubnik had just been given the reins.
What if he looks incredible?
That's what I'm saying. Tennessee might be getting a playoff-worthy iteration of the Clemson Tigers in the Orange Bowl with their backup quarterback and Joe Milton.
Oh, my God. What would the conversation be like then around that?
Right. So it's a battle of backup quarterbacks, but arguably on one side, it's the guy that probably should have been starting. And then on the other side, it's the guy that certainly did not deserve to start over Hendon Hooker, with no disrespect to Joe Milton.
So, obviously, there are a number of different outlets tracking this, but I was looking at the Rivals Transfer Tracker ratings. They have Devin Leary, the NC State quarterback, ranked as a higher player than DJ.
Yeah, more productive player.
You've got Denver Harris, the defensive back from Texas A&M. Dominic, is it Lovett at Missouri, the wide receiver?
That's an attractive prospect for a lot of Tennessee fans, I know.
How about Dason McCullough from Indiana, top 5?
Connor Bazelak, the Indiana quarterback, also in there. But
he's further down.
Denver Harris, the guy, the Texas A&M freshman that posted his Instagram story speeding at 90 miles an hour through a parking garage in the middle of the season, former 5-star defensive back.
Excellent.
But he's one of the most high profile of that monster class A&M signed a year ago to hit the portal. But, yeah, you mentioned Leary out of NC State. Brennan Armstrong out of Virginia hits the portal as we continue to just look at the ACC. Keaton Slovis goes one and done at Pitt. He's hit the portal, and Pitt's already found their replacement for Keaton Slovis in another ACC quarterback in Phil Yurkovich of Boston College. So the ACC is aflame in transfer portal quarterback movement already.
Here's the number of players that are transferring from Alabama who are already in the portal or who have announced their intention to transfer. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Alabama players currently planning or already in the transfer portal right now. That's the kind of defections that we're talking about that are going to at least bring the bottom of college football up. Maybe not the bottom, not the dregs of it. I'm not who's the worst college football program this year? Old Dominion? Somebody like that?
UMass.
I don't want to take UMass is usually a safe one.
Year in and year out.
UConn?
Pretty safe
UConn.
bet.
Didn't UConn make a bowl?
UConn's bowling, baby. I don't know what you're talking about.
No. I corrected myself. That's you. In any other year, I'd be right, though. Back off.
Jim Mora, baby. Who is UConn's bowl matchup?
I don't know.
It's actually a somewhat intriguing one. Marshall. No, it's not that interesting. The Myrtle Beach Bowl. 8-4 Marshall against 6-6 UConn. I'll watch it.
I'm certain. But still, yeah, Kirby's going to be out there, the master of ceremonies. 8 Alabama players in the transfer portal. The defection from programs like that. Now, it's going to happen to everybody. And there's going to be a heightened sense of, oh, bleep, because it's Alabama, people would dare to leave Nick Saban. They're a shoo-in for the national championship every year, but this year, it would seem, despite all of that, which we still have not talked about, the public lobbying of Nick Saban, and maybe we'll do that when we get to winners and losers of the sports weekend. But I do think that this is the kind of stuff that other programs are banking on that can help them get in the college football free agency game, because that's basically what this has become. We saw it last year, and this is the heightened version of it. This is the next evolution, and it's only going to continue from there.
We'll talk about it at the top of the second hour, but there are a few programs in particular that can benefit exponentially from the portal this year as far as turning things around immediately, like USC did with Lincoln Riley. But I don't know how sustainable that is as far as looking at what programs are able to do in recruiting and building out a team through years, and how sustainable it is to build out a program in that way. When you say free agency and just bringing in a collection of different guys every offseason that have been productive at other stops and just hoping they gel and hoping that they can create a football team that can come together through a long season, get to the playoff, and push for a national title, I think that's a lot easier said than done, no matter how talented your roster can be. So it's not shocking that when you look at the 4 teams in the playoff, all 4 of them have built their roster through recruiting, not in the transfer portal. And I know the portal is a fairly new thing. Maybe that'll change. USC would have been the first to get into the playoff if they had beaten Utah with that method from Lincoln Riley, going from 4-8 to playoff in year 1 just by bringing in a collection of talent, as many as he could. But they were unable to do that. They didn't bring enough defensive guys, apparently. But that's going to be interesting. over the next few years and which programs can benefit the most from it immediately in 2024 or 2023, I guess.
You ready to make fun of Nick Saban?
Please.
Let's make fun of Nick Saban. Winners and losers of the sports weekend, live from Toy Field, coming up next. Guys, did you know that having your testosterone check should be a part of your annual routine, Men's Health? It's not something I knew or even thought about until I talked to the great folks at Tennessee Men's Clinic. A lot of guys suffer from low T, and they have no idea. You don't even realize it from time to time. If any of this sounds familiar, though, you feel sluggish, you feel run down, your sex drive's been low, you just don't feel like you used to. It could be low T. Low T treatments can truly change your life. Most men experience higher energy, better gains in the gym, better mental clarity, improved sleep patterns, and so much more. It's only $99 for a testosterone and PSA test at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and in a matter of minutes, you'll know your numbers. They make it easy for you to get back on track fast if you're like most men with low T. So call them today, 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Welcome back. Live from Toy Field at Nissan Stadium today. Come by, say hi, drop off a toy or a gift for a senior to benefit the Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels. All 4 shows live out here today. Ramon, Kayla, and Will already gone. We're with you till 1 o'clock. Blaine and Mickey, 3HL on after that. Thanks to all our partners who make Toy Field possible. Hardee's, Fox 17, Cool Ray, State Water Heaters as well. So, I said it's time to make fun of Nick Saban. I think it's well past time that we make fun of Nick Saban. Go ahead and give me the circus music. Brett? Winners and losers. Real simple. Give us a winner. Give us a loser. Who had a good weekend in sports? Who had a bad weekend in sports? Real high-level stuff. 615-737-1045. Jump in as you like. Shall I begin the proceedings with a winner or loser? I'm going to go ahead with a winner. Have you seen what's going on with Odell Beckham Jr. and the Cowboys? Have you seen what Jerry Jones is doing to recruit Odell Beckham Jr. to sign with the Dallas Cowboys? Who knows if it's going to end up being a good football decision. But Jerry using every element of the Cowboys, like TMZ component, to kind of make Odell Beckham Jr., who you know loves the spotlight, who you know loves to be appreciated, loves to be celebrated, all those things. And that's all well and good. He's been a high-level player for a long time in the NFL. I don't know if he still is, but you're recruiting this guy a little bit. Jerry is pulling out all the stops. I saw OBJ arriving for his Cowboys visit, and literally it's like Jerry had tipped off the entire state of Texas media corps to be there as he walked down this like ramp type of thing. You seen the video? It's crazy. Like TMZ Sports picked it up. This is exactly what Jerry wants. Jerry's been through some problematic stuff here in the last couple of weeks. He could use a win. I think that for Jerry Jones, whatever it ends up happening, whether it ends up benefiting the Cowboys, who just beat the holy hell out of the Colts on Sunday Night Football, if nothing else, Jerry understands what kind of business he's in.
When do you think Odell signs with the team? Just right before the playoffs?
I would. I don't want to go through practice. If I'm Odell, it's like Gronk.
Well, what's his timeline looking like? He tears his ACL
He's
in
medically
February.
cleared. He's medically cleared. Yeah. I mean,
that's a fast recovery, no? From the Super Bowl?
From the Super Bowl, I would say it is above average if he's going to be right. Like, we have no idea what kind of football shape he's actually in, right? This is the conversation we're having around Racing McMath with Mike Vrabel yesterday. Dude's had a hip injury. They're more concerned about, okay, not just the hip, but is Racing going to be able to handle, like, the kind of workload that a player like that needs to do to be able to be as strong, as fast, as quick as you do, because it's as much about the soft tissue injuries after a long, long layoff as it is about the hip at this point. So I'd say for Odell, I mean, I'd probably expect it to happen sometime in the next couple of weeks.
And the Cowboys are by far the favorite here.
But yeah, the Giants tying the Washington Commanders, and, the Cowboys just look overwhelming. Odell should absolutely go there.
We haven't talked about that tie at all, have we?
I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, I love it. I'm so happy that happened.
You're a sicko.
My winner of the football weekend, Jalen Carter, who's already going to be a millionaire, the Georgia defensive lineman. He's a surefire first-round pick. I mean, you watched him come back from injury and bully the Tennessee offensive line into submission in that game in Athens a few weeks ago. He didn't need to add anything to his tape, right? Like he doesn't need to improve his prospect or his stock as a draft prospect. So he's my winner because he's playing for a national championship over the course of the next couple weeks. He's going to go through the draft process with scouts and general managers and coaches salivating over him. And now he can add to his highlight tape as a Georgia Bulldog, him picking up a quarterback like a grown man picking up a small child in an SEC championship game with one arm. With one arm, he picked up Jalen Daniels, basically propped him up on his shoulder like a small dog and waved with his other hand, like celebrated with his other hand. Like my cat, Leo, I'll pick him up and I'll swing him over my left shoulder. Yeah. That's basically what he did with grown man quarterback Jaden Daniels of the LSU Tigers.
That's correct.
Jaden Daniels. I'm sorry, I called him Jalen Daniels. Jalen Carter is my winner of the weekend.
So I have previously thought that the most disrespectful thing in football, like celebration-wise, is the too small thing by wide receivers and defensive backs.
No,
physically picking up a quarterback and tossing him over your shoulder like a deer you just shot.
With one free hand.
I just
like pointing up in the air in celebration.
It is the most disrespectful bleep I think I've ever seen. That's a really good one. I'm glad you had that one. Losers of the sports weekend, of which there are many. College football playoff, we now have the Final Four. Alabama, we know not to be in. Not for a lack of trying by Lil Nicky. Nick Saban out here on literally every platform that anybody would offer him. Lucas, I think we could have called Nick Saban and be like, hey, Nick, sell us on why you should be in the college football playoff. He would have come in studio at this point. He would have stopped by the Mercedes-Benz dealership he owns in town, and he would have come in studio to tell us about quality losses. Nick Saban, what the hell are you talking about? You remember the whole rat poison thing?
Oh, yeah.
The worst kind of rat poison is now coming from Nick Saban.
I loved it because you know how much it pained him to go on these national networks and grovel like that.
No, not even like the national network, whatever. Like, if nothing else, you get the recruiting out of that. I'm talking about like the ESPN, like Twitter live stream show.
With his former quarterback, A.J. McCarron.
That's right. Which, news to me that A.J. McCarron's doing media. I thought he was still orchestrating a very problematic sushi joint in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My loser of the sports weekend.
Well, can we hear Nick Saban, Brett? I want to hear Nick Saban talking about why Alabama should have been in the college football playoff. Nick Saban's talking about point spreads.
Right.
How many times has he lectured the media about that? About asking him questions on who may or may not play when Alabama is playing Georgia Southwest Tech State out of the FCS on a cupcake game, and he is furious about the rat poison. And how do you know? How do you know we're just going to waltz in and beat them? Because you're favored by 47 points, Nick. And now it's convenient to talk about point spreads. Like, well, would we be favored or would we be the underdog? I thought that didn't matter, Nick.
Hey.
You hated fielding those questions.
These are as much politicians as they are coaches. And Saban it's been a while since Saban's had to campaign. And it showed over the weekend. Every position Nick Saban has been able to be so strong on for the longest time, because he's right, it's been a given that they've been in the college football playoff. Now that he has to get back out on the campaign trail, to no avail. Losers, Alabama and Nick Saban.
My loser of the weekend is also a college football head coach that did not get into the college football playoff. There was no debate about whether or not USC was going to get into the top 4 on Sunday, but Lincoln Riley is my loser of the weekend because his team was eliminated from the discussion for the exact same reason that they've been eliminated in every iteration of Lincoln Riley's football team pushing for a playoff spot or a national championship, and that is defense. When he was hired at USC, he brought Oklahoma defensive coordinator Alex Grinch with him, and USC's defense was abysmal this year. They finished 81st in the country in scoring defense, sandwiched in between California and the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders, allowing just under 28 points per game, 27.92 points per game on defense, and there was no greater example than the Pac-12 championship.
The missed tackles. Oh, my God.
Dalton Kincaid is brushing off USC players like flies, landing on his shoulder pads when he's running to the end zone in the Pac-12 title game. It was an embarrassing showing by the USC defense. And you know what? They've got a great turnover margin. Congratulations. That is the biggest argument from USC fans about their defense. Hey, they forced turnovers. Sure, they forced turnovers. Their offense has done a good job of taking care of the football. But what does it say about your defense when you force 4 turnovers and still give up 45 points to UCLA?
Yeah.
That tells me your defense is awful. And the ball bounced your way a few times. You forced a couple TOs, and you gave up 45 points. Lincoln Riley, once again, as was the story every single year he was at Oklahoma, let down by his defense. I wonder what the priority will be for Lincoln Riley when he looks at his coaching staff, when he looks at the transfer portal this offseason, because something has got to change for that guy if he wants to win a national championship.
You're very upset about this. It was a very passionate attack of USC on defense.
It was a passionate attack. I have no vested interest in whether or not USC gets to the playoff.
That's clearly a lie based on what you just did there.
I really enjoy watching USC this year. I did. Caleb Williams is electric, man, and we get to watch him for another year. It's just it feels like a philosophy thing at this point.
Yeah, because that's my thing. Like, how can the coordinator have so much to do with missed tackles? Like, other than the fact that I know that contact is obviously super, super limited, particularly at the college level as it is in the pros. I mean, there's a collective bargaining agreement in the NFL, and at some point with players, if players decide to unionize in college football, if such things like that are not beyond the pale, as it seems like they're not, do we have a situation where that starts to impact it? Anyway, I don't know how it's that big of a difference from one coaching staff to the next within the same structure of rule system, other than you just don't care about defense. If you truly don't care about it, other than you're trying to design ways to create turnovers, that's all well and good, but you still have to be able to not just capitalize on points off of turnovers, but make a stop from time to time, get pressure, do something.
He was asked in the post-game presser, do you guys, practice tackling? And he next questioned it. He was offended by the question, but...
Sure,
it's not
he
good.
has no reason to be offended by the question.
It's not good when
they look like they don't practice tackling.
They really do.
See, now I'm very passionate about the USC defense. I don't know what happened there. Live from Toy Field, we're hanging out today. Stop by Nissan Stadium. We will be here live all of the shows until 6 o'clock as we work our way through the programming day. 615-737-1045 is how you can join the conversation. Let's talk about some college football programs that can benefit most from the transfer portal in 2023. We've told you about some of the big names out there. Obviously, the names are going to continue to roll throughout the course of the next couple of weeks. And it has been, this to me is more exciting than things like National Signing Day. Because I know who some of these players are, a body of work. I know what they can do, and now I'm excited to see them in different spots and different uniforms. So we'll talk about the programs that can benefit most from the transfer portal and take your calls on that as well. Coming up in this next calendar year, I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tampa Bay Bucks strengthened their lead atop the NFC South on Monday Night Football with a 17-16 win over the New Orleans Saints, improving to 6-6. Bucks outscored the Saints 14-3 in the fourth quarter. It's Tom Brady's 44th fourth-quarter comeback of his NFL career, surpassing Peyton Manning for the NFL record. Meanwhile, the Titans maintained their lead atop the AFC South despite a 35-10 loss in Philadelphia on Sunday, dropping them to 7-5. After back-to-back losses, Mike Vrabel spoke to the media yesterday about why he has confidence that this team will turn things around down the stretch. Titans made a move yesterday, adding former Cowboys outside linebacker Terrell Basham to the active roster and placing wide receiver Cody Hollister on IR. They'll look to remain unbeaten against the AFC South this season on Sunday when they host the Jags. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second down, live from Toy Field. Happy Tuesday to those of you who celebrate. We are happy to be here with you guys for the next 2 hours, celebrating a great event that we are always pleased to be a part of, year in and year out, that 104.5 The Zone and Cumulus Nashville, all stations out here, hanging out, building a field of toys. We need your help. We're out here until 6 p.m. today, so you can come out while you're Christmas shopping, or if you're driving around town, maybe you're going to get gas, whatever you're doing, maybe pick up a toy or a gift for a senior and bring it to Toy Field for the Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels program. You guys always do such a fantastic job in making a difference in people's lives, and I know today will be no different. We're making pretty good progress, by the way, so far. I feel like this is, at least from what I remember from last year, I feel like we are further in the construction of the field than we were at this point last year.
And if you need more incentive than just helping out the Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels, the weather I know is rainy, but is incredibly warm compared
nice out here
to the last couple years. It feels fantastic. We're not freezing our toes off like we typically are.
Okay. Thank you for your sacrifice. So, who is sacrificing talent to the transfer portal this year? There are any number of players, any number of teams that are losing top quality transfers, and at this point, I mean, the biggest names to enter on day one, let's just go back through the list because I know people will, I know it's going to update. You've got DJ, the quarterback from Clemson. Spencer Sanders, I think, is an interesting one, the quarterback at Oklahoma State. Hudson Card, who obviously lost the Texas. How bad must Hudson Card be if he can't get back in the lineup with what Quinn Ewers looked like down the stretch? Because I still don't have an explanation for how that happened so quickly. Such a precipitous drop-off from, all right, now we're seeing the kind of talent that made this guy such a big point of discussion, why it made sense for him to be the first out there, leaving high school early, going to Ohio State, having already burned a transfer to go back to Texas, the state where he's from, and Hudson Card can't get in the lineup, I guess because they're just trying to roll with the player that was more high upside, but oof.
There's got to be more belief in Quinn Ewers' talent down there. I think a quarterback battle between Ewers and Arch Manning is very appealing to Steve Sarkisian, and there's definitely more investment on the NIL front in Quinn Ewers in Austin.
So Hudson Card in the transfer portal. We mentioned DJ, Devin Leary, the NC State quarterback. Unfortunately, his season ended due to injury. Fentrell Cypress, the corner from Virginia, is highly regarded. South Carolina's got a tight end, Austin Stogner, I believe is how the last name is pronounced.
Former Oklahoma tight end. He came over with Spencer Rattler.
And then we mentioned Dason McCullough, who is highly regarded, the linebacker from my alma mater, Indiana. There's a lot more names. The list is honestly too long to go through. But speaking of quality quarterback play, Austin Reed, about an hour and a half up the road to Western Kentucky. You mentioned this yesterday. He's in the transfer portal. He's one of the best passers in the sport this year. And, Western has for a while now had staffs where they are able to produce high-level offense, a lot of points, a lot of yards. Taywan Taylor was a product of that, certainly during his career, former Titans third-round pick. I believe he's still somewhere in maybe Canada, maybe the USFL. I can't recall. Anyway, he had New Orleans who, Brett? You can say that on the air.
He played for the New Orleans Breakers in the USFL.
Right.
The New Orleans Breakers of the USFL.
He is a member of the Breakers still.
Is that getting ready to I'm seeing advertisements for the USFL already. I feel like that's too early.
I think it's after the Super Bowl.
That would make
New
sense.
City this year as well.
New City.
Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay team from last year is now in Memphis, and there's going to be 2 locations in the South, playing in Birmingham and playing in Memphis.
Okay, but everybody's going to play in their home stadiums now as opposed to all playing in Birmingham?
I think they're splitting it up.
He's saying playing in Birmingham and Memphis.
Oh, okay.
It was all in Birmingham last season.
Right, that I knew. Okay, either way. So second in touchdown passes is Austin Reed, 36 touchdown passes this year, 353 completions, and 4,247 yards.
Wants to be a Power 5 starter.
Well, so which program stands to benefit the most from this? So we know what's going on at Clemson, despite them losing a starting quarterback. Cade Klubnik is going to be the starter moving forward, and probably should have been at some point throughout the course of this season. So who are you looking around in the Power 5? Alabama, the situation with their quarterback, Bryce Young, is obviously going to go to the NFL draft. The freshman who had to play in the Texas A&M game,
Jalen Milroe,
is very, very raw. I don't know if Alabama wants to get in the game of, all right, are we going to go and supplement our already great talent pool with other guys? Because what kind of message does that send to the recruiting? How much? I mean, you're stepping on toes at some point either way, I would imagine, because there's only you have to be able to exploit this thing to the best of your abilities. But Alabama is a sneaky one that I look at and say, okay, what if they don't want to have to go through the growing pains of what Jalen Milroe obviously, I think, offers right now at this stage in his career?
Well, you know who the other guy is in Tuscaloosa. There's going to be a lot of eyes on that quarterback battle in Alabama because Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson, both blue chip prospects. Simpson out of Martin, Tennessee, Westview High School, that Tennessee pursued very heavily right after Josh Heupel was hired and before Pruitt was fired. There's going to be a lot of eyes on that situation, on who loses that battle and what comes of that regarding the transfer portal between Simpson and Milroe. Clemson is going to be interesting because we've all heard Dabo's stance on transfers. They don't take them. I think the only transfer Dabo's really taken is Hunter Johnson, who started his career at Clemson as a quarterback and then went to Northwestern and then went back to Clemson.
Yep.
And I think Dabo has softened his stance on a few of those things. So I wouldn't be shocked to see that. But Clemson's not going to be one of those schools that you hear in the mix for most of these guys. I wouldn't think. I don't know for sure. But that Alabama quarterback battle is going to be fascinating as far as what happens to the guy who doesn't win that job. And how does Nick Saban kind of manage that in trying to keep both of those guys on the roster, maybe keeping that open for as long as he possibly can, and just seeing what happens into 2023.
Why can't the University of Tennessee be the program that benefits the most this year? Is there a compelling reason why, other than they didn't see much action? I mean, meaningful action in the transfer portal this last year. Now, this year is totally different, right? The floodgates are open. There was not a stigma around transferring last year, but certainly any kind of trepidation that you might have, probably to a lot of these players' detriments that just end up in the transfer portal with nowhere to go. So I heard Dawn mention that, I believe, right before I did my 3HL hit with the crew there yesterday. The idea that a lot of these guys are entering into the transfer portal and then not ending up in a different landing spot after the fact, and then having to figure out, oh, bleep, what do I do now with what was my free college education, and now have to figure out a couple of different circumstances around it. Tennessee makes too much sense to me because, all right, let's say Milton looks sus when they play Clemson in the Orange Bowl, like beyond what we know Joe Milton's drawbacks to be. Now, you have Nico Iamaleava coming into campus next season. I don't know what his timeline necessarily looks like. I would imagine that it's dependent on Milton. But
breaking Titans news on 104.5 The Zone.
Well done, Brett. Well done. Breaking news from Ian Rappaport. The Tennessee Titans are firing general manager John Robinson.
Wow. Throw out the rundown, kids. That's Ian Rappaport's verified account. The Titans are firing John Robinson per Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. You know, I had somebody send me a text like that last night, that John should be fired.
Well, yeah, we've heard that.
No. Like, people of consequence talking about that.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, there is a clear and obvious problem with the roster situation right now. But I cannot imagine a scenario where the ownership actually pulls the trigger on that, unless we're like anti-malarkey now, and instead of siding with the general manager, you're siding with the head coach who is doing all he can with the different pieces and parts, and obviously they have a ceiling that cannot be broken through with this current group.
And that situation with Malarkey was a head coach that general manager did not hire, which is always a situation that you have to keep a close eye on how it's going to play out. And anytime something phrased there, the general manager is likely going to want to make his hire. I think this is completely different, right?
Well, we don't know all the details, obviously, and I don't want to recklessly speculate, because the John Robinson, Mike Malarkey thing was a lot more. We had a lot more information at the time. This is obviously just hitting us. So why don't we collect ourselves? We'll take your phone calls on this, 615-737-1045. The Tennessee Titans have just fired, according to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, Titans general manager John Robinson, on the heels of getting blown out 35-10 at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles and A.J. Brown. Probably hurts a little worse today. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling is the HVAC company that can take care of all of your HVAC needs. They're the preferred HVAC service and maintenance provider in Middle Tennessee, and they're hiring, by the way, for installers and service technicians. If you want top pay, 4-day work weeks, and benefits, apply today. They offer medical, dental, vision, matching 401k, paid vacation, and holidays, fully stocked trucks, and company and factory training. It's easy to apply online at springhillac.com/careers or email careers@springhillac.com. Start your new opportunity today, springhillac.com/careers. Welcome back. Breaking news, if you missed it in the last segment, the Titans have fired general manager John Robinson. Hired here in 2016. This was in the middle of season number 7. This is before the team gets ready to make a playoff push, and we now have a statement from the organization, and Amy Adams Strunk is controlling owner. Quote, since becoming controlling owner in 2015, my goal has been to raise the standard for what is expected in all facets of our organization. I believe we have made significant progress both on and off the field through investments in leadership, personnel, and new ideas. This progress includes the core of our business, the football team itself, which is regularly evaluated both by results and team construction, roster building. I am proud of what we accomplished in my 8 years of ownership, but I believe there is more to be done and higher aspirations to be met. I want to thank John for his dedicated work to set this organization on an upward trajectory, and I wish him and his family the best. Man, that's a cold-blooded business decision. Now, there's any number of reasons why this is happening today, and in fact, I mean, it's not – you almost have to give Amy Adams Strunk credit for understanding the same kind of deficiencies that we've all talked about and how it is that we got here, right? We spent so much time yesterday talking about how did they get to a point where it looks like that against Philly, where it looks like that against Buffalo. And I know some of these things, there's anomalies in them, teams experience setbacks from time to time, but when your coach is at the podium saying, hey, we're at a crossroads, we got to decide how we move forward as opposed to just kind of caving in. The conversation at that point becomes, okay, he's right, but he's talking about we have to just do the best that we can because we don't, he's not going to say it. He's not going to admit this publicly, but they don't have the horses to keep up. They are so paper thin at the positions that matter most in the league right now. And the contracts that John signed, they've not been albatrosses. Ryan Tannehill was a good contract to sign. Derrick Henry was a good contract to sign. Kevin Byard was a good contract to sign. But the way that things have been, shambles is too far a term for a team coming off the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. But she's feeling the same way that you do. She tasted a little bit of that playoff success, and she's looking around and saying, oh, really? This is what we're trotting out again? This is the best we can do? Eric Fisher is the best available free agent, or was, I guess, for the Miami Dolphins. He's hot trash for the Indianapolis Colts last year. But a question was brought up to Mike Vrabel, and what's Mike Vrabel going to say? He doesn't have roster control, although I got to think there's some conversation being had now around that. For what it's worth, Vice President of Player Personnel Ryan Cowden, who has been with the Titans for 7 years, according to the release from the team, will lead player personnel for the remainder of the season. Preliminary work for a new general manager will begin shortly, and a comprehensive search will begin once the season is complete. Goodness. I think that there is a lot of credit to be given to the ownership for pulling the trigger on this. John has done well, as the statement says. He's done well to get them back on their feet as an organization. But, I mean, she's not wrong to have those kind of higher aspirations.
Like Malarkey. Like when they fired Malarkey after winning
Malarkey.
a playoff game.
Yeah. No, it's just flipped on its head this time as far as the positions.
It's the first line of her statement. My goal has been to raise the standard for what is expected in all facets of our organization.
Started with coaching. Now it's on to personnel. 615-737-1045 is how you can jump into the conversation. 615-737-1045 is the number. I got to tell you, my phone with people around the organization legitimately shocked, not by the decision, but by the timing. The timing is the thing that makes this the craziest part, I think.
The last example I can find of this was November 2020 when the Detroit Lions fired Matt Patricia and general manager Bob Quinn. Late November 2020, which is we're sitting here in early December 2022.
Yeah, but what was their record at the time?
They were terrible.
Yeah, this is a playoff team.
No, as far as timing, that's the only example. But context of the situation, I can't think of anything else like this.
We've got, 6 games left on the schedule? Is that right? 5. I'm sorry.
Games.
See, this is why we can't do math on air. Thank you, Rep Ryan. 5 games left in the year. and a team leading the division, despite, I mean, the division is wretched. We know the Colts are terrible. We know the Jags are awful. We know the Houston Texans are a nowhere franchise. And the Tennessee Titans are sitting on top of a really, I mean, they're kings of the trash heap, right? Whatever. As long as you make the playoffs, a lot of times you will have organizations get complacent with that. If you win your division, you host home playoff games. If you host home playoff games, you make money for your ownership group. And that, as long as the balances are even, a lot of times you'll see organizations just be like, okay, this is enough. We don't have to shake things up. This is a foundational shakeup. This is in J-Rob we trust. And my question is, at what point did the trust become frayed? Because it's not, I mean, the Eagles game is the most recent thing that we have. That's the thing that I think a lot of people, A.J. Brown, are going to point to because it's the most visceral example of what we're talking about. But I want to know, when before that, did that become a part of the conversation? Because there's only, I mean, I don't know if Amy Adams-Strunk is on Twitter, but she's probably looking at the state of her offensive line as the way that the rest of us are and being like, there's not anything we could have done better in these particular situations. Or is this a failure from a front office standpoint of just a really, really bad run of drafts? And draft picks more specifically, as opposed to, 2019. They've survived on 2019 for a while, but it's not materializing. And then, what's a fair argument for John Robinson? It doesn't matter now. He's out. But if I'm John Robinson, I'm looking around and being like, hey, I had players. They're all on the injury report. What do you want? What do you want from me? I can't help that the left tackle looked like he got shot by a sniper on the first play in Buffalo because his ACL blew up again. And you can go back and forth in those ways any way that you like. But it doesn't change the result of what is today John Robinson being fired by this organization.
This is the type of thing that happens midseason when your team has 2 wins. And
that's what the Lions were at the time?
The Jags did the same thing on the same day that the Lions fired their general manager, or in the same weekend at least. The Jags fired Dave Caldwell on November 29th, 2020. And the Jags at the time were 1-10.
615-737-1045. Jump in on the conversation if you like. Mario from Memphis is up next. Hey, Mario.
Buck, what's going on, man?
Not much. Just trying to keep everything in front of me this morning, I guess.
Look, Buck, I got 2 things, Buck. First of all, the guy Jordan Wing get the contract to embarrassed him on Sunday and literally cost him his job. Second of all,
No. But I don't think that's it. I think that's the thing that put him over the top. But there's got to be more to that than just AJ had a great game.
That's already the narrative, by the way. AJ Brown got J-Rob fired.
I think that's short-sighted. You know what I'm saying, Mario? Like it just can't be one thing.
But check this out, though, Buck. Let's go back and look. Look at the Wilson pick, the first-round pick. He drafted a cornerback 2 years ago. He a bust. He can't stay on the field. Look at some of these draft picks and players that he's not willing to go out and get. And it cost him his job. I mean, a lot of people got to look at John Robinson. Oh, the Titan draft pick, he's been Jeffrey Simmons, A.J. Brown, I give him that. The rest of them, okay, straight trash. He has not done a good job. I mean, he's not. I mean,
no. Wait, you can't ignore the place that this franchise was in when he got here. Like he got them to a place where they were competitive. But to your point, like since then, it's not felt that kind of way. Like they continue to seek an upward trajectory, and it feels like they've plateaued.
I mean, Buck, look, what about the linebackers that he didn't sign back? All the players we drafted, the Evans, the Jalen Browns, and all that. I mean, we basically get players and get them to a good status in the NFL, and then we don't sign them. I mean, it's crazy though, man. I mean, it was time though, man. To me, it was time for John Robinson to go. No.
Thanks for the call, Mario. 615-737-1045 is the number.
He built it. He didn't sustain it.
And that's what you got to do. You got to find ways to sustain. So 2020 and 2021, how those draft classes have gone, the optics around them, everything that's resulted since, and the deficiencies that this roster is left with in the aftermath of 2 wholesale poor drafts by any standard of measurement. When it's Isaiah Will, Christian Fulton is the best result. of the last 2 years.
Second-round pick.
And Isaiah in the first round, third-round pick in 2020. Let's pull up the draft classes if we could, because obviously it's important to look at the results and not just talk about the free agents, because Roger Saffold, I think it was the right move at the right time. Now,
Darrington Evans.
Third
round.
Is he still on the Bears? I have no idea whether he's a Bears running back. Anyway, I know he was there this offseason.
But you're looking at Isaiah Wilson as the beginning of the end, so to speak, at like the moment where things start to unravel?
No, I think that.
Or are you looking before that?
Let's talk. No, I think
you're coming off an AFC Championship game appearance there.
I think after that game, or after that season, Isaiah, coupled with Clowney, coupled with Beasley, coupled with, well, there's more than couples, but Jonathan Joseph, then trading A.J. Brown. And listen, general managers are competitive when it comes to winning a deal. And this specific deal, the A.J. deal, blew up in his face, no doubt. It's A.J., It's the draft classes. It's the misses on defense. It's the inability to address the offensive line in more significant ways. It's the idea of paying a running back. What Derek is against the cap for how much this year? I think it's between $15 and $16 million without an offensive line that can support the highly paid, highly talented still running back, and wasting him, for lack of a better term. Because that's what it's – the last month of Derrick Henry's career has felt like a waste.
The 2020 draft class obviously was Isaiah Wilson in the first round, pick number 29. Christian Fulton in the second. Darrington Evans, who is still a member of the Chicago Bears, in the third round. Laurel Murchison in the fifth round. Quarterback Cole McDonald out of Hawaii in the seventh. And defensive back Chris Jackson out of Marshall in the seventh.
I mean, the last two seasons, there is no defense other than the injuries. And if you're citing that, then – I mean, it's a losing argument at that point. And I think it's the right move. I really do. And I like John personally. I've always enjoyed my relationship with John Robinson. I've always enjoyed the insight that he's willing to provide. And, you obviously spend time around people and working with them and covering them over the course of the past couple of years. But there's no question. This is a poor product. It feels a little bit House of Cards-ish because Jeff playing through the ankle stuff, the Nico not being available, the pass rush, the special pass rush is gone. For the time being, we'll see if they can get healthy down the stretch and kind of rejuvenate this thing. The Derrick Henry thing, the thing that is the core piece of what it is that you do, even if he may not be the actual most important piece of the offense right now, but he's a thing that can help put you over the top. He's helpless. He can't do it by himself. And the best counter to that just killed you on Sunday. Absolutely wrecked you. It's the correct decision to move on from him. I just don't know. I don't know what kind of, honestly, I think the message is a good one. In a performance-based industry, performer, you're out. Performer, you're out. And that should be the message. Like the kind of crossroads stuff from from Mike the other day. Like that kind of crystallizes things, I think, more for the players, for the coaching staff, like the kind of renewed focus, the kind of renewed fervor to approach your job with a specific kind of intensity that may have kind of waned for whatever reason. I can't be in all of their heads all at once, but I think that more than anything, the situation for Amy Adams Strunk sending this message has a trickle-down effect that is tangible. You want a kick in the ass, for lack of a better term? Here it is. Not only are you accountable for covering A.J. Brown on Sunday or not only are you accountable for not blocking Josh Sweat or blocking Josh Sweat, no, the people who you work for are also held to account. As Lucas mentioned, it happened with Mike Mularkey. And here it is, John Robinson out a few days after losing to the Philadelphia Eagles as an organization. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. Let us go to T-Dog in Nashville up next. What's up, T?
What's up, Buck? You all right, man? You sound pretty disgruntled there.
No, I mean,
hey, man,
I think it's a shocking in-season move, but it's my job to process it.
For sure, for sure. Hey, man, I always appreciate the call. The show. I just think Amy turned the TV on Sunday, bro, and watched a little football, right? And then she went, wait a minute. Julio, big catch, big comeback. He's gone. Corey Davis, a couple of big catches in that game. And then looking at AJ, and AJ said after the game, he really wanted to be here, but he had to give us a little whooping. He still loves us. He's gone. And so I think basically what I'm trying to say is when it got down to it, they looked at Mr. John Robb and said, you think you're the smartest person in the room all the time. Bringing in Caleb Farley, injured. Sure, Jeffrey Simmons, he came in injured, but he's the man. Now Caleb Farley, he's not showing up to be. My biggest thing is AJ got him fired, bro. When it comes down to it, I know you don't want to hear that. AJ got him fired.
No, it's not that I don't want to hear it. I'm just saying there's a point where that thought, like it happened before AJ, where that thought came into somebody's head, into Amy Adams Strunk's head. Okay, we probably need to move on from this guy. Now AJ could be the thing that puts it over the top, right?
Yeah, I think looking at the whole thing, the past couple of years, just kind of the bust of everything, it has come down to that, but then this was the tip of the iceberg. So, all right, thanks, man. I appreciate the show.
Thanks for the call, T-Dog. 615-737-1045. Here's the thing that's because he mentioned, I'm trying to process all the different things that could have got us to this point. The optics of being publicly humiliated. That video going around yesterday on the internet of the owner's box, because T-Dog said Amy probably watched it on TV. No, they were in the owner's box at the stadium. There's visual evidence of all the Eagles fans in front of the open-air owner's box, double middle fingers at Titans ownership saying, thanks for A.J. Brown. Public humiliation. Like, literal public humiliation. That, I think, is enough to invoke the kind of anger or emotion. Anger is, I don't want to call it anger. I don't know. Frustration. Thank you, Kirby.
Yeah, that makes it sound reactionary, right?
Right. That's what I'm trying to
If anything, this is proactive.
Proactive proactive would have been before, it's tough to kind of mitigate or to debate proactive, because how are you know that Caleb Farley's not going to be able to get on the field until he gets shut down again for another season? How do you know that Isaiah Wilson's gonna get DUIs and wreck Hellcats all over Nashville and end up out the league?
No, I'm just calling this a proactive move by Amy Adams Strunk, rather than playing out the remainder of the season, resetting at any point, making the move right now in the middle of a season where you're probably going to host a playoff game.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Like, I've been.
No, you listed it. It's the Jags and it's
the Lions,
and it's the Lions.
That's just that's 2 years ago. But I've scrubbed through trying to find an example like this, and I can't.
615-737-1045. Obviously, we are reacting to the firing of John Robinson all for the rest of the show. 615-737-1045. Let us go to Will in New Jersey up next. Hey, Will.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good, bud.
Thanks for taking my call. Just sitting here at work, get the phone call, and I get the news over my phone, and the first thing that I get is shock. But me personally, my issue with John Robinson is the fact that, how are we so strapped for cash and we don't have the type of playmakers that we need, to make a Super Bowl run? And that's pretty much where I'm at with it. That was my biggest issue. Thanks for taking my call.
So their financial situation is not great, right? They just restructured. Basically, imagine using again, you can play the results on this all day long. There's going to be multiple examples. But the fact that there are multiple examples of this is also a problem. Robert Woods is making Corey Davis money. Ballpark. Corey Davis money. Would you feel better about this offense with Corey Davis as opposed to Robert Woods? Probably so. A.J. Brown is making considerably more money. They found a player that they felt could help them win at value and supplement it with a rookie contract, who has a rookie in Treylon Burks through no fault of his own, not able to stay on the field. When he goes out, your passing game goes to absolute bleep all over again, and it looks as constipated and as difficult difficult just to get anything done. When you've got Jared Goff out here whipping it around, the Lions have Lions have a larger roster talent pool, theoretically, to pull from because they've had so many high draft picks. even if the coaching's not great. Like there are different ways in which you could point to different examples of teams with backup quarterbacks or with lesser quarterbacks looking better than the Titans do. And the fact that it's leading to other problems. The fact that they don't have viable replacements on the offensive line is getting the quarterback killed. The quarterback who they have a substantial amount of money invested in. The running back who they have a substantial amount of money invested in. It's all kind of domino affecting that way. 615-737-1045. We'll continue to talk about this. We're live from Toy Field today. Stop by Nissan Stadium, the East Concourse entrance by Gate 1. Bring an unwrapped toy or a gift for a senior to benefit Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels program. We need your help throughout the course of the day. We'll be live here all of the shows until 6 p.m. I'm Buck Reising. More John Robinson discussion coming up next. If you're somebody who's been dealing with nagging joint pain, you don't have to go through another year with it. People with chronic joint pain are getting real lasting relief from QC Kinetics. They're the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine. Their unique protocols use healing agents from your own body to target aching joints, repairing and restoring damaged tissue. So you can move again with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. If you've got shoulder pain, hip pain, arthritis, or lingering pain from an injury, don't let them operate on you or give you more steroids, and say no to the pain pills. Call QC Kinetics today and see if their life-changing, all-natural treatments can get you living your best life in the new year. This is the future of joint pain management, and appointments are available as soon as next week. Make 2023 the year that you say goodbye to joint pain. QC Kinetics, Nashville, Clarksville, and Murfreesboro, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. Welcome back. Live from Toy Field. Buck Reising here with you until 1 o'clock. John Robinson, general manager, fired by the organization. We're reacting to the news out at Toy Field all day long. The field is filling up, by the way. Keep it coming. You're doing great work in helping us build a field of toys for the Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels program. Thanks to our partners who make Toy Field possible, Hardee's, Fox 17, Coolray, and State Water Heaters. Back to the phone, 615-737-1045. Your reaction to the Titans' removal of John Robinson at this stage. At this stage is the thing that I continue to come back to because it's pretty crazy to see. I mean, good organizations don't do this. And I do think it's meaningful that it's happening here. Let's go to Phil in Portland, who's been waiting. Hey, Phil.
Taking my call, Buck. Hey, listen. Now, me and you know the conversation we had yesterday. I told you when I called in, my blood pressure was up. I said they need to put John Robinson in the janitor closet, and they needed to hire you to take his place. Part of that has already took place. And I told you, Buck, you're the voice for the people. Now, when I got off of this radio talking to you, I heard you say, we're going to have to get John Robinson in here. I think that's what I'm going to have to do. I think that was the icing on the cake. I think they heard you on that radio, and that was the icing to the cake. I don't think it was AJ, and I do think it was blowing up. But I think you got a voice for the people, and I'm grateful for you, Buck, because now we got change. You have a blessed day.
Thanks for the call, Phil. Don't give me that much credit, buddy. But I mean, but here's the thing, people in the organization listen to the radio station. It's not just the show, right? They listen to what's going on. And they're very much cognizant of the discourse, not just from us as people with microphones, but of you, right? This is something that people have been very, very passionate about. And in the same way that they're looking around and reading things and hearing things and seeing things and about their football team and what's being discussed as an ownership group, they're saying, yeah, I feel exactly the same way. You're going to be loyal to your people. John Robinson was loyal to Amy Adams Strunk. It paid dividends. It was a beneficial relationship for a time. It ceased being so at a certain point. And yeah, the idea of having him make public comments after an embarrassment like that when people are legitimately outraged and checking out on their football team and losing interest in their football team because for what? To go one and done in the playoffs again? Probably so. Now, they're a capable organization, and they've been a well-run organization. I really do think this is the correct decision. The more that I think about it, the more that I'm entrenched in that position. It is absolutely the right move. And I frankly, I think the timing makes me love it even more. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Let's go to Casey in Lewisburg next. Hey, Casey.
What's going on, my man?
Talk to me.
So, it's a good decision because you can't really, that's really the only decision you can make. You can't get rid of Vrabel. He's an amazing coach. So my thing is the timing, like you were saying. They're a playoff team still, in my eyes. Why do this now when they're probably still not going to fill that position until the offseason anyway? Why do this now and make it more of a distraction than it's going to be already in the offseason?
Well, because somebody needs to do something. Now, listen, what Ryan Cowden is going to do after this is going to be highly scrutinized because I think he's in a similar position. I think he's going to look around and be like, well, there's not really a left tackle for me to find, Amy or whomever or Mike, about the decisions made on the roster.
That's my whole thing. Just because you fire him, it's not going to help the situation. You're still in the same spot. It's hard to draft guys. You can't expect to know what a guy's going to do in the NFL when they're playing against people their own age, and they're not playing against grown men that have been in the league for multiple years that understand the game at the level that it's at.
Let me ask you this question: if you have a situation where you're just you know you're going to do it anyway, but you're just waiting, is the only reason because you're worried about a distraction? Is that the only good argument?
It's not a good argument. I'm just saying is like y'all are saying, most good organizations don't do it in the middle of the year when you're still expecting to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I appreciate the call. 615-737-1045. I think waiting, just for the sake of waiting, it means you don't trust your organization to be able to handle it. Like if you're the Jags or the Lions, basically godforsaken in terms of the football world, you don't face any real blowback. Your season's done when you make moves like this to fire an executive or a coach in the middle of a season, or at this point with 5 games to play. That 5 games to play is the crazy part. But do you have such little confidence in your organization to be able to handle, all right, yeah, this guy wasn't performing in the same way that is there an example this year of a player who got cut for performance? I can't think of one necessarily. I'd have to go back to the likes of Jonathan Joseph or Vic Beasley, where this was made in real time, and nobody would have made the argument that the distraction is too great to cut those guys. Should the same rules not apply to the people who hire them? I think it levels the playing field considerably. 615-737-1045. Now, how long do you think it takes, Lucas, before we get to the point where people panic and be like, oh, is Vrabel going to think this is unstable? Is he going to go to Ohio State? I'm waiting for that call. I feel like we're not that far away from that. Because now everything's on the table. I mean, everything is legitimately on the table without knowing what Mike Vrabel's role in a move like this is. Jared in Mount Juliet is next. Hey, Jared.
How you doing, guys?
Good.
I agree with the move. I disagree with the timing. I think that again, you made a good point. What has to happen eventually may just need to happen immediately. But I think he's worked hard enough. Where let's not forget he just got an extension in February. So who's that on?
Oh yeah, no, he's under contract right now. He's walking away with 4 years of pay. Like they're paying this dude through 2027 draft.
Right, but just why extend him? There's no question that the overall scope of his work it's been disappointing because he's a West Tennessee kid. I think everybody was pulling for him. He kind of came in with that Belichick swagger, no nonsense. But the deterioration of the roster is solely on him. I'm a season ticket holder, Section 132. I'm about 10 rows up, and last week when Cincinnati came to town, it was just so glaring how bad that offensive line is, and then the secondary. There's just holes all over the roster, and that's on him. But I think everybody's kind of have accepted the playoffs are just going to be a formality, but he is responsible for what is arguably the worst draft pick in the history of the NFL draft. Bad free agent signing, going after graybeards like Clowney, Julio Jones that just did not pan out. And I'll go a step further. Malik Willis. I haven't seen third round potential so far myself, but I do agree with the move. I'm disappointed, but I think you could sense even Vrabel a little bit had some concerns, but I just disagree with the timing.
Thanks for the call.
But the timing tells you what Amy Adams-Strunk thinks about this team's ceiling this season.
Oh, I know what they think. I saw it on that kid's face when the Eagles fan was flipping him the bird. Like I think we all saw it. It was that. It's disappointing that it takes things being on video for it to feel more real for people, like the Ray Rice thing. Like that was my whole thing. Like, what did you think domestic violence looked like until you saw it on video, and then everybody freaks out. When it's on video, when it's circulated for more than just the idea, the discussion around it. That's I think what catalyzes moves like today, right? You need legitimate outrage. Like that's why when LeBron James is talking about keep that same energy for Jerry Jones as you did for Kyrie Irving. There's different kinds of things, but I understand his larger point if you want to nitpick the thing, which is the noise is what affects the change. The noise is what drives change forward, which I think he probably stated poorly, but whatever. I'm not here to litigate that. We're going to keep talking about this. Noon hour is coming up next. Your reaction, John Robinson fired, general manager of the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Cowden, the VP, now in charge of personnel for the remainder of the season. And I have a theory that I'd like to pose to Lucas about what this means for Mike Vrabel's future tenability with this organization. We'll talk about that coming up next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Breaking news today, initially reported by Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. The Titans have parted ways with general manager John Robinson, who took over in that role in 2016. Owner Amy Adams Strunk with a statement, quote, "Since becoming controlling owner in 2015, my goal has been to raise the standard for what is expected in all facets of our organization. I believe we had made significant progress both on and off the field through investments in leadership personnel and new ideas. This progress includes the core of our business, the football team itself, which is regularly evaluated by results and roster building." She goes on to thank John Robinson for his dedicated work to set this organization on an upward trajectory and talked about higher aspirations being met. We'll continue to talk about it the rest of the way on 104.5 The Zone live from Toy Field. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 3, and there is nothing to talk about. Live here at Toy Field on 104.5 The Zone.
What do we have in the rundown here?
Nothing but John Robinson.
Let's talk Dion, huh?
And in fact, who do the Grizzlies play tonight? Maybe that's where I'll go. Yes, John Robinson's been fired. We're going to talk about it. Shocking to no one. 615-737-1045. Your phone calls, we'll get to them. So I've been texting with a lot of people, obviously, outside the organization, inside the organization, around the NFL right now. And I wanted to bring up a conversation that I've been having with a friend of mine who knows John Robinson well and is very familiar with his career. We'll leave it that way. I was texting him, or he texted me and said it's crazy to get fired midseason after a 7-5. That's nuts.
He texted you and said that.
Yes. To get fired in season at 7-5 after that many years definitely sucks. I feel like that's only warranted if there is a personal conduct issue. Now, this dude just got a 4-year extension this offseason. So, and I don't know anything. I don't know anything to the effect. I'm going to say that there's more than football involved in this. Like, the football is obviously the driving force. The football is the business. The business has been affected. I'm sure people can't get rid of their Titans-Jags tickets fast enough after what the hell that looked like on Sunday. I don't blame them. I mean, I'll be there. I'm paid to be there. But, like, I would not show up to watch that offense. You couldn't. They have precious little redeeming qualities as a football team right now, based on the last couple of weeks. What are you shaking your head at? You look like you disagree with me.
Would you pay
to get a Jags ticket today?
No. I'm not disagreeing with you about what you're saying about how the Titans looked on Sunday. Okay. I'm disagreeing. To me, this, not knowing any extenuating circumstances off the field or personal issues, not knowing any of that, to me, this sounds and feels like a purely football decision for the direction of the franchise from Amy Adams Strunk.
I don't think you can say either way.
No, right? we don't know for sure,
right.
But that's what it sounds like to me.
The public humiliation thing, I think, matters. I think the football matters most. And I think the way that the coach is up there, looking like a beaten dog, because what else can they possibly do? I mean, what else can they possibly do other than what? In fact, Brett, do you have that Crossroads clip handy? Yeah, find that for me and let me know when you have it, because I think obviously Warrant's playing today, because the Crossroads, and I wonder if there's any hidden meaning to the Crossroads conversation now, because I think about the tenability of Mike Vrabel's future with this organization, I think you have to think about letting John Robinson go to keep him. And I don't think it's just about Ohio State. Like, I know he just signed a contract extension, but people can get bought out of contracts all the time, depending on the language in the deal. And I don't know what Mike Vrabel's deal specifically looks like, but I would imagine if I'm Mike's agent, I'm calling them today and being like, we want team control, or we want roster control right now. right now.
I've seen a lot of that worry about Mike Vrabel and Ohio State. Ohio State's in the playoff.
I'm not worried. I'm not talking about Ohio State. I'm talking about somebody with more money coming in and saying, with a better situation, Mike, you deserve better. Go be great. Not good to great. You don't have to get it good. It's great. Go make it better.
Amy Adams Strunk knows that.
Hell yes. I think it's multi-layered, right? Like any discussion we have around football on the field, it's multi-layered. Are they performing? Not right now. Are they going to win their division? Yes, but to do what? Is there any path for them to get better moving forward? Not in the immediate. And is their coach doing everything? Is the coaching staff? And I don't know what this means for Todd Downing because, I mean, Todd, that's a Mike situation. But let me hear from the head coach on Sunday night with us in Philadelphia talking about the crossroads that his team is currently at. Apparently somebody higher up felt the same. So what can be done in a critical time? Like what moves can be made that are going to just – because there's a side to each argument, right? Why wait to fire him if you know you're going to fire him anyway? I'm largely on the position if you're going to do something, just do it.
I've always been that way.
Do it and be done with it. Don't Brian Harsin. There's any number of examples across any level of sport or industry where you wait too long just for the sake of either you're conflict averse or you're scared of what might happen. And if you're scared, you shouldn't be doing these jobs.
What do you gain by waiting for the end of this season if you know this is the move you want to make?
Sure, but as it relates to this year's team and underperformance, what is there to be done now? Like, what is Ryan Cowden going to be looked to do? Or is it just like, okay, like we will get a head start on candidates who are going to be out there. Ryan will have the opportunity to interview. By the way, Ryan Cowden has interviewed for a lot of GM jobs and not gotten them. And Ryan Cowden is also John's number 2 guy with what this roster looks like. Now, would he have made certain decisions that John ended up pulling the trigger on? I don't know. I don't have that context, and I'm not going to speak to that without all the information.
But that could play a role in this.
Hell yes. But what is to be done in the immediate? Because I'm looking around at everything else that's still the same, the free agency pool, the practice squad situation. The roster is currently constructed, and I'm saying I don't think there's anything else to be done other than to just get rid of this guy now. And maybe that's all it takes. Gilbert calling us from California on John Robinson. Hey, Gilbert.
How's it going today?
Doing good.
Yeah, well, what I was saying is it just lets me know that I think A.J. Brown was telling the truth, and Amy Adams had to, crack the whip on him. And what I will say is that if you think about it, when our last GM, Russell Webster, got fired, it was the bad game against the Texans when she got embarrassed out there in Texas. And I mean, John Robinson, he had his chance, but my main problem with J-Rob, I do like him as a GM, but it's just that he couldn't sign none of our homegrown players. I mean, we watched Corey Davis get drafted. We learned all about him. We watched Jack Conklin. We watched Dory Jackson. I mean, all the guys that he let go. I know you can't pay everybody, but he was not able to replace them. And it just, the organization fell into a bad place, but hopefully it's better days ahead and we get a head start on picking a new GM.
615-737-1045 is how you react. That's the thing. So the first round hit rate is something that gets cited a great deal, right? Because in the first round, their retention rate, everybody but Jeff and Traylon Burks at this point
is on the roster.
Well, Farley's here too, but whatever.
On the active roster.
With Caleb Farley. So Jeff and Burks are the only 2 first-round picks In 7 years, he's had 8 first-round picks because the second year that he was the general manager, they had Corey Davis at 5 and they had Adoree Jackson in the teens. So 7 drafts, 8 first-round selections, 2 of which, one is a rookie, who are on the active roster, and the third in Caleb Farley, who I think everybody is looking around and saying, all right, enough of this.
Uninjured reserve.
Already. Yeah, the guy that was projected to be a top corner that you took a risk on with the back issue, and then ultimately, if you're going to let Caleb Farley walk, it's probably going to be because of the injury issues, the back issue that's now recurred. He has a disc situation that's cost him the rest of his season. So as we look forward to this, I almost think that there's going to be. I'm fascinated to see what the internal dialogue becomes around the front office in this season. And I'll ask you guys the question: what can they do right now that's going to be better than what John Robinson didn't do? Making moves for the sake of moves, or is there something that's going to be discovered here that's been negligent all along? We're live at Toy Field here on 104.5 The Zone. Toy Field. Always a great event to be out and about for, building a field of toys here at Nissan Stadium to benefit Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels program. We're out here, all the shows as a station and as a Cumulus Nashville cluster until 6 p.m. today. So make sure you stop by the East Concourse by Gate 1, drop off a gift an extra toy or a gift for a senior. The gift for a senior, so critical because it's not the first place that our minds go. And obviously, they are as much a part of this as anybody, and everybody deserves to have a good holiday season.
When you're here, grab some wings, chicken tenders. Memphis Wings is in the house, and they are fantastic.
Yes. In fact, we very much appreciate Memphis Wings for making this hour possible. 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. If you are looking to hit your weight loss goals, if you're setting weight loss goals, the new year right around the corner, you want to get with a program that you know is going to work. That, for me, has been PhD weight loss. 37 pounds is the amount of weight that I've lost since I started the program about a month and a half ago, and the results have been spectacular. Not just because of the physical results, but because of the methods that it's helping me build, the good habits, the healthier habits, to make sure that I can maintain. That's what they want to do. They want this to be a for-life weight loss program. And PhD Weight Loss knows exactly how to get that done, specific to the individual. They're going to come up with a plan, a schedule, a meal program for you that's going to fit your life, your body type, and your needs. To get your goal started today, to achieve your goal and get started today, go to myphdweightloss.com. Again, myphdweightloss.com.
The Buck Reising Show live at Toy Field at Nissan Stadium is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
Indeed, in this noon hour, brought to you by the original Memphis Wings. Lucas has tried them out. He's loving them. He's bringing us back from commercial break with a mouthful of chicken. It tells you how good that is.
But I'm not getting them on Kirby's little tarp here.
You mean the apron?
Yeah,
on the table?
The apron for the table.
Yeah, he came after you like a father would a child.
He came after
me. You can't
me.
eat here.
Came after Rhett a while back after Rhett sat down with some chicken, but the chicken is fantastic.
Well, at least you know he doesn't discriminate. Looking at the situation for the Tennessee Titans, John Robinson fired earlier in the 11 o'clock hour. We've been reacting to it all day long, taking your phone calls, 615-737-1045. And now what we're trying to figure out, what I'm trying to do in the commercial breaks is figure out, hey, what do I not know about this circumstance? What are the details that are being left out or that have not yet been reported? Who can provide additional context to this whole situation? And it seems that people within the organization beyond the higher ups are as shook about this as everybody else, but largely in agreement. Now, you're playing the results because you're coming off the recency bias of the Eagles game, the recency bias of the A.J. Brown thing, and the A.J. is the most critical mistake that he's made. Hands down, right? Is Isaiah a bigger mistake than A.J. Brown? Because I would argue A.J. means so much more than a potentially, average or good right tackle had Isaiah Wilson panned out in ways that obviously that never happened.
Yeah, because draft busts happen. They're not excusable.
No.
And they don't happen in that fashion. That was a very unique situation. But you have to be able to keep your best players. Bradford.
Or some of them.
Just some of them. And that's long been a knock on J-Rob, right?
Conklin's been in and out of the lineup for the Browns since he signed that contract, but he's been a good right tackle when he's available.
But it's important not to look at when we go back and dissect every move because that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
Looking at something, we have to separate hindsight from what the decision was in the moment.
Yep.
Because when they parted ways with Corey Davis and they signed Julio Jones, it was singing the praises of John Robinson. Nobody, I'm sure there were some, but the vast majority of people were not disagreeing with that move to part ways with Corey Davis.
Here's what I'll say. I agreed with the decision by nature of the messaging around it, right? Take swings. Julio individually, 32 years old, hamstring issues. He plays he plays that position very, very physically, ways that are very abrupt stops and starts. The whole thing with Julio has been a large man that can run the routes of somebody who's much smaller and shouldn't be able to move like that. And, of course, that doesn't sustain after a while. So I'm in principle, I'm down for the big swings. Now, Julio individually, I didn't necessarily – I wasn't overwhelmed with the move, but okay, at least you're doing something. You're not sitting on your heels. Bud Dupree, I kind of felt the same way, even if Bud has had availability issues as well. And that's been, that's another thing. Like the availability of Julio, the availability of Bud Dupree, the availability of the guys that they're paying a lot of money to. I know Julio's deal was different than they traded for the contract. But there's a lot of money that is being wasted on injured reserve.
It was early in the year. It was tops of the league,
no,
right?
They still are.
They still are. And
are.
that's a lot of that is Landry and Lewan.
Yeah, Taylor and Harold Landry take up a considerable percentage of that, but and you can't do anything about the ACL tear for Harold. You can't do anything about the ACL tear for Lewan. But these are all going to be things as cited as, hey, you spent my money on dudes who don't play. And the guys who you didn't spend the money on, they're out here killing it. Adoree looks great. Conklin looks like Conklin is a above-average NFL right tackle. A.J. Brown is having a phenomenal season. Corey Davis is playing in a productive offense where he doesn't have to be the number one anymore. And that's proven. I mean, they have quarterback issues, but you understand my point. Brett has audio from Tom Pelissero providing more details around the firing of John Robinson, the Titans general manager, former Titans general manager, today. So that's Tom Pelissero providing a little more background, right? Because it's not just the because I was in that press conference with Vrabel, right, when Teresa asked the first question, and it was basically to the effect, well, if you guys haven't figured this out yet, like this is how we have to play, this is how we have to win games. We don't have any other way to do it. And Mike's been kind of signaling that, not just the Crossroads comment, not just that particular clip. Do you remember the Ed Warder quote in Kansas City? Where Ed Warder is asking him about why do you run Derrick Henry so many times, and Mike's response is, who the bleep would I throw it to?
And that game ended up playing out pretty much exactly to
they
that
tried to throw it to, who's that damn wide receiver?
Chris Conley.
Chris Conley. Double doink off his hands or whatever.
And cut him almost immediately after.
Who the bleep would I throw it to?
Well, and then you think about the Mike Sando article on Jeffrey Simmons.
No, not Mike Sando, but an athletic
The Athletic.
article.
Who was it? Jeff Howe?
No. Pompey. Dan Pompey.
Dan Pompey. Thank you.
About the contract squabbling.
Yeah.
Not squabbling, but posturing with Jeff Simmons, who they absolutely have to pay.
Yeah, but the paraphrase quote from Jeff Simmons, I mean, what was it? We don't know if we can pay you. We want to keep you. We don't know if we can pay you this.
All right, so let's talk about this. Who have been the must-pay players for John Robinson, right? Let's go back and relitigate this. Corey Davis, not even playing the results. Didn't have to pay Corey Davis. Adoree Jackson, they supplemented the backfield well enough with quality players. The quality players have not been able to stay healthy. That has cost them opportunities. Didn't have to pay Adoree Jackson. Kevin Byard, you had to pay. Taylor Lewan, you had to pay. A.J. Brown, you had to pay. You didn't. Jeff Simmons, you have to pay. TBD. And you know what? I'm looking around because that's the thing about the A.J. deal. And he had the leverage. John had the leverage. And they fumbled the bag anyway. AJ's, the representation conversation we had all summer long about it's not just AJ's agent, it's also the agent that represents Deebo Samuel at CAA, Tory Dandy, all these different things. The posturing that Deebo Samuel tried to do didn't work. They held firm. So it's not just that they didn't get the contract done. At a certain point, negotiations broke down, and they just stopped talking to one another.
Yeah, because remember, Deebo asked for a trade.
Deebo absolutely asked for a trade.
And he's wearing a 49ers uniform.
Kyler Murray, the whole social media deletion thing, that's a different organization. But there's a playbook, right? And you can play it well or you can get got. And the Titans got got. John Robinson got got.
You have to hit the big ones.
Jeff and AJ.
Yeah.
One's gone. One, there's an article out there publicly that caused people's chests to get tight about, oh my God, are we gonna nickel and dime the best thing that they've had since Albert Haynesworth? 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Back to the phones to react to the firing of John Robinson today. How about, let's say, Ricky in West End. Hey, Ricky.
Hey, Buck. So the first thing you always hear everybody say, if you don't pay the guy, they won't give good effort during the season. Well, as somebody who watched Deebo just destroy a defense this past weekend, I promise you he's giving really good effort this season. So AJ would have been pouty, but he probably would have – they still know he's trying to win a contract. He's going to get that.
They paid Deebo.
But,
that's what he's saying.
Did they pay Deebo?
No, he's saying they didn't pay Deebo, and Deebo still
Yeah,
– they paid Deebo.
Oh, they paid him. All right. Well, he's a good player. They were smart to keep him. But anyway, I think with John Robinson, it all comes downhill with the Julio trade, and not just because the trade was a debacle. You ended up paying Ryan Tannehill more to where you can't move him if he's not going to be good enough.
Yeah.
And now you're in a situation where you're stuck with Ryan Tannehill. You're a horrible cap situation by your own fault. And it just
but Ricky, I know you're a Dolphins fan, but Ryan Tannehill is not the problem.
He's not the problem, but he's not the solution.
Well, sure. He's on his ass.
And is he worth $40 million?
He's on his ass for half the game. What do you mean he's not a solution? He didn't have the time behind that wretched offensive line to be a solution. He didn't have the wide receivers to be a solution. There are no solutions provided to him and Derrick Henry.
He's been the only solution at times this year.
Do not. I understand what you're saying about moving the money around and Ryan Tannehill being the most expensive cap hit of a quarterback this year is obviously
Tannehill's a good quarterback, but he's not $40 million.
It's not quite $40 million, but it's ballpark. I appreciate the call, Ricky. 615-737-1045. It's the highest in the sport this season. And that money did get moved around to make the Julio deal work. Those are all things that are factually accurate. The money gets more manageable next year, and like the Tannehill thing, I'm not the least problematic or factor in this to me is Ryan Tannehill. The fact that Ryan Tannehill cannot be further maximized, He literally presided over the third most explosive offense in football in 2019 and 2020. They were phenomenal. And the roster looked a lot different.
If you're looking at Ryan Tannehill,
no.
That's very misguided. If you're looking at Ryan Tannehill as the biggest reasons that we're here today.
Well, no, Ricky, he's not looking at Ryan Tannehill, but we talk about cap. I mean, I don't want to call their cap mismanaged, but the decisions that they made with the cap and the maneuvering of the cap that they had have also compounded in ways that make their situation what it is today, because they don't have money to pay people like they're having to restructure Robert Woods and convert money into signing bonus just so they can continue to sign these stray cats that Mike Vrabel's going to have to make competent NFL players out of. 615-737-1045. Alex is in Nashville next. Hey, Alex.
Hey, guys. So this thing comes down to the timing. Don't have an issue with the timing, but one thing the timing does say to me is this is the time of year where all NFL personnel staff come back to the team, start to put together the plan for the offseason. Could there have been something behind the scenes, maybe a disagreement on coaching staff going forward, not the head coach, but Downing and others? Or could there have been a disagreement behind the scenes on what to do with Tannehill's contract next year between GM and coach? And for those
Alex, I don't know that. I don't have that information right now. It's just speculation. Like I can't give voice to that.
It is speculation, but you have to look at. That is something that you have to look at.
No, those are questions that are asked. But like I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to debate it with any kind of legitimacy when I don't know if those conversations happened. You know what I'm saying? Like those could all be factors. But I'm just to be responsible. I can't talk about things I didn't know that happened.
Right. I'm not asking that. I'm asking the possibility. Regardless of how this season finishes, there's some pivotal roster decisions due to the salary cap that are going to have to be made where those conversations, different philosophies, Amy see the writing on the wall and made the decision. And for those worried about Vrabel, this move doesn't happen without him, his stamp of approval and confidence in moving forward.
Thanks for the call. 615-737-1045. So, as expected, and is being reported by Aaron Wilson, who is now with, forgive me, I'm going to give him proper credit here, KPRC2. But Aaron's been around the Houston organization. Mike Vrabel's expected to have significant roster control, significant say, a significant increase in power in the organization. You know why? Because they want to keep him. And listen, if Mike fails to perform in there's precedent now for that. If you fail to perform based on their expectations as an ownership group, everybody's capable of getting got. Because I don't think that John was safe by any means, but I thought he was at least safe for the season. I imagine he probably thought so too. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on our conversation. Because I don't think that this would ever work, but I think of an example in the NFL of not the Ohio State situation where a big-time college institution offers to double an NFL coach's salary to come be the figurehead, especially a guy who has the kind of significance that Mike does. I'm not saying that's a realistic option at this point. But, I don't think Mike could ever work for Jerry Jones. But I could absolutely see Jerry Jones shoving enough money in Mike Vrabel's face or any coach's face if he wanted him badly enough to say, hey, I'm going to pay you until you say yes. Because they can do that. They have the wherewithal to do that. So you're going to have to, as an organization like this one, you're going to have to capitulate to more things. And by the way, Mike Vrabel is really, really good at what he does. He's the reigning coach of the year for a reason, and he's making an argument again this year despite 7-5 and the issues that they've got. Now, head coach.
I bet he would hate working for Jerry Jones.
God, I would love those. You imagine us meeting with Jerry, if I was covering the Cowboys or something like that, us meeting with Jerry telling us about injuries and then walking into a Mike Vrabel press conference. That would be tremendous. Anyway.
Not for Titans fans.
No. But for the circus. I like the circus.
For you.
Yes. Now, head coaches, by the way, with roster control, they don't always work out. There have been different scenarios, and in fact, that's probably what I'm going to research after I get off the air today is how many different NFL head coaches in the last, let's call it 5 years, have had probably 10 to flesh out a larger sample size, but legitimate roster control, and it's panned out in ways that are meaningful. Because the NBA, there's more examples of that. Doc Rivers, it went horrifically wrong with the Clippers. There are moments in that where you got too much to do. Now, how you delegate matters, and if you hire people If you are going to hire people in those kind of positions to do those jobs for you and work collaboratively with you, then that matters too.
Matt Rule.
Did Matt Rule have roster control?
He had reportedly had a lot of roster control.
What?
In Carolina.
And they gave him that awful contract anyway. There's an example. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation.
The reaction from Titans fans has been overwhelmingly supportive of Amy Adams-Strunk in this. Will on YouTube says, I am so happy someone was listening. J-Rob was the problem, now being held accountable. Thank you, Miss Amy. Willie says, Miss Amy should have stepped in when J-Rob blew up the team in the offseason.
No, they gave. But here's the thing.
Kay says this speaks volumes about Amy's understanding and oversight of the organization.
They gave him a contract 10 months ago.
Yeah.
So don't give me they're not blameless in this either just because they get to be the hero today. Amy Adams-Strunk, because I'm not. They made, I think, a correct decision. But also, I'm not ignorant of the fact that they let him blow the team up, for lack of a better term, with the AJ trade, and then gave him another deal. And he's walking away with 4 years worth more of their money. That's a screw up by the organization. Just to fire him later and eat your losses that way? No. Don't give me thank you, Miss Amy. And I mean, she did the thing, all right? They did the thing that you wanted, and you're playing the results after the fact. But don't be so head in the sand type of person to say, oh, they knew it all along. We knew we could trust them when they literally gave him a contract 10 months ago and then fired him.
Are we sure that extension happened before the AJ move? I don't know, because the AJ happened in May. I mean, the NFL draft is when
end of April.
End of April, right? Beginning of last weekend of April, first weekend of May. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure. You know what? Let's do that next. Let's find out the timeline. Last call for phone calls. Don't worry. Blaine and Mickey on after this. They're going to keep the discussion going. 3HL on after that. We're live at Toy Field, presented by Hardee's, Fox 17, Cool Ray, and State Water Heaters, our great partners who make this fantastic event possible. The station and the Cumulus Nashville cluster are out here until 6 p.m. today for you to drop by with an extra gift or an extra toy or a gift for a senior. The gift for the seniors as important as the extra toys. There's all kinds of toys out here, but you can help a senior in need to benefit the Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels program. We need your help today, so stop by Nissan Stadium, where the Zone and all the other Cumulus outlets are going to be broadcasting until 6 p.m., and we would be greatly appreciative of you doing so. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
So we got
Superbook Sports, that's where you go to get in on the action this football season. They will match your first bet up to $1,000, win or lose. You'll love the app. Download it today. You can check out all the great odds boosts and promo bets that they have to offer, and specifically on your favorite teams. There's a Tennessee tab in the Superbook app. You could click it, get those great odds boosts and promo bets on the Titans, the VOLS, the Preds, Grizzlies, your favorite local sports teams. Superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back live from Toy Field. We're wrapping up, but the conversation is going to continue. Titans general manager John Robinson fired as we broadcast here at Nissan Stadium today. 615-737-1045 is the number if you would like to jump in on the conversation. Looking at the scenario for the Titans, and I kind of went in on this, and I need to correct myself. John Robinson was given an extension in February. A.J. Brown was traded in April. So he had signed the extension and then made the trade. That is a noteworthy inclusion, so forgive me for not having the timeline accurate on that. That does matter a great deal. Back to the phones for you to react, because this is a move of great consequence, and now the conversation becomes, all right, what do they do and who do they turn to? We're obviously going to spend a great deal more time talking about that across the 104.5 The Zone today. Let's go to Donna calling us from Dallas up next. Hey, Donna.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Well, J-Rob the gangster got gangstered by Amy, and I'm here for it. I'm thinking that the best thing about this is it was an embarrassment last week, but I think what they're saying is, yeah, the fans might have checked out, but the team hasn't. And she enjoyed the relationship between Robinson and Vrabel, but you got to pick a star, and the star is Vrabel. And she's putting everything behind him. I mean, I think she's saying, yeah, we've been the best of the bums in our division, but where are we going with this? And we weren't going to go anywhere with the GM, but we will go somewhere with the coach. So I think it's a total philosophy and a business change. That's why he's gone. That's why the timing is now, because the players still believe they can do something. We don't as fans, because we saw nothing but a lackluster performance. But they believe they can, so why not now?
It's an incredibly insightful call. Thank you very much for it, Don.
Right at 60 seconds.
Listen, she's clearly a pro. Like, what the best of the bums is what she called them in the division. What a great call. Like I said, I agree with the decision. And here's the thing. Like, John Robinson had 6 straight winning seasons and was told that's not good enough. And I love that if I am a Titans fan. Hell, I love that as just a philosophical approach. Yes, winning your division is not sufficient. You have to compete. You have to win playoff games. You have to it's not just, they backdoored their way into the number 1 overall seed. No, you earned it because you are the superior team. You've been one of the most successful in the NFL under this current administration, but now the administration has gone a bit stale, and it's not on the fault of the coach.
Now, a lot of that, though, getting into the number 1 seed is roster decisions by John Robinson. They were in some bad positions because of mistakes by John Robinson, but Buster Screen and Deontay Foreman, a lot of that was credit to J-Rob.
And I think the coaching staff is going to look at it and say, no, we did that.
Yeah.
We made those guys, or we put those guys in a position, right? Trust the coaching. That's the whole line. That was the line in 2020. Well, I know it's not the coaching.
Well, they've gotten guys off the street that just haven't worked, and they've gotten guys, just regular guys off the street that have.
Yeah, but the problem is they've had to churn because they've had so many swings and misses. 16 total defensive backs this year for them to land on guys like Andrew Adams and Terrence Mitchell, right? Like it's not been like, okay, they just found a couple and they've panned out. No, they've had to go through some dudes before they could figure out, all right, this guy can play on a week or in a short week's notice, and I can, get by without having him be a complete liability in a way that, maybe the last one was, or the 2 before that.
I wonder when this seed was planted in Amy Adams-Strunk's mind.
That's my question, because it's not AJ. AJ is the thing that puts it over the top. The embarrassment, the outrage, the resentment, the frustration combines to move this thing forward, and the discourse after the fact, which is, you got. Like they robbed your asses. They left you out in the cold, and then they invited you into their home and stepped on your head. Like just stepped on your head with their heels and twisted it into the ground. And you have to sit there in your owner's box and eat it while this wide receiver, this phenomenal player who looks exactly as great as he was when he was here, continues to catch touchdown passes on your neck.
Can we pause for a second?
What?
And talk about how insane it is that John Robinson got fired before Chris Ballard did in Indianapolis?
What a note. That is pretty crazy. Because his record is substantially better.
Can you imagine telling someone that a calendar year ago?
No. Hell, I couldn't imagine telling you that before Reich got fired. I can't believe that Frank Reich got fired over Chris Ballard. I'm still in shock about that. Wow, what a poll by you. 615-737-1045. Let's go to Rob in Nashville next. Hey, Rob.
Hey, what's going on? Lucas, how you doing? It's Rob.
Oh, what's up, Rob?
So
what the hell?
Brown trade and some of Robinson's other decisions in the offseason, it sort of signaled to me that this was a team in transition. Like it felt like the front office was acknowledging that the window had closed on the team that earned the 1 seed in 2022 and made the AFC Championship in 2019. And it was time, not for a rebuild, but like I said, a transition. Get out from under some big contracts, reevaluate some critical roster spots. So, yes, the A.J. Brown trade was ballsy, and I didn't like it, and I don't think most of us did. But I thought, all right, let's see how this pans out. Robinson seems to be prioritizing some sort of long-term gain over short-term pain. And maybe I'm overestimating Robinson, and he thought this was a win-now team, but that's not how I read the tea leaves. So first, do you think the front office and ownership were not on the same page?
Oh, a terrible time for your phone line to go down, Rob. Your phone line crapped out on us, Rob, but we appreciate the call. 615-737-1045. The idea that this was a win-down team. I mean, I think so. In training camp, we talked ourselves into it. Felt like, all right, maybe they have a little bit more balance rather than just leaning on all one guy. And then none of those things came to fruition. It took the vast majority of the season to get Hooper and Chig involved in ways that were meaningful. Burks has missed a considerable amount of time, and to expect a rookie wide receiver to elevate or cover up all the problems that, I mean, an all-pro caliber player in AJ. AJ I don't think AJ made the Pro Bowl while he was here. In fact, I don't know. I think there has to be one Pro Bowl appearance for AJ, probably in the 19 or 20 season.
20.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
The offense was explosive enough.
There's no way that he didn't make a Pro Bowl. Okay, so.
Yeah, he was all-rookie team 2019, Pro Football Writers, all-rookie.
And likely will have an all-pro on his resume by the time, at least one, by the time his career comes to a conclusion. You can't look around and say, by any objective measurement, no matter what you did in the offseason try and counterbalance that this is a better football team without A.J. Brown. And again, it's not just about A.J., but that's the tipping point. How about, obviously we're not doing polls today. The polls are presented by
Two Rivers Ford. Sells below MSRP on all non-specialty new Fords.
So instead of presenting the polls today, they're presenting your phone calls on John Robinson. Let's go to Jesse in Murfreesboro. Hey, Jesse.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to touch on three things real quick. One, just what you were saying about Robinson and, 6 winning seasons in a row. I really like that, kind of mentality that you were talking about, because for so long the Titans have been, underdog mentality, and I'm hoping this is something signaling a shift to, eventually you can't be the underdogs if you're trying to go for a ring, And then the other thing I wanted to say was, you mentioned that Robinson was fired before Ballard. Well, Balky is also still hanging out down in Jacksonville somehow, which is also crazy to me. And then the last thing is that, what do you guys think of any chances that Vrabel becomes, like the true disciple of Belichick and is the GM as well as coach?
I don't care about Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel comparisons. I don't care about.
Yeah, that's fine. But his question is the chances of Vrabel ultimately holding that position.
Slim to none. Bill Belichick has 6 Super Bowls. Mike Vrabel does not. It's fine. There's going to be a lot more conversation about it. Toy Field. The rest of the shows are live out here today. If you're driving around shopping, make sure you bring an extra toy or a gift for a senior, and bring it to Toy Field here at Nissan Stadium on the East Concourse. We'll be back at it tomorrow. I'll talk to you on A to Z Sports Prime Time tonight. Blaine and Mickey got you next.